Tommy Lee Jones lost his daughter Victoria on New Year's Day at the Fairmont Hotel in San Francisco. She was 34 years old. This is the kind of news that hits hard, especially when you look at the details and realize how addiction can affect anyone, regardless of their connections or background. Around 2:52 in the morning on January 1, 2026, a guest at the Fairmont spotted Victoria lying unresponsive in a 14th-floor hallway. The Fairmont sits at the top of Nob Hill, this massive historic hotel with marble lobbies and chandeliers, the kind of place where presidents have stayed for over a century. At first, the guest thought Victoria might have passed out from New Year's Eve celebrations. San Francisco goes all out for New Year's, with fireworks over the bay and parties running until dawn. But when hotel staff checked on her, they knew immediately something was seriously wrong. They started CPR and called 911. The San Francisco Fire Department arrived within minutes. Paramedics assessed Victoria and pronounced her dead at the scene. Police showed up around 3:14 a.m. and found no signs of a struggle, no injuries that would suggest foul play. There were no drug paraphernalia visible, no suicide note, nothing that immediately explained what happened. The medical examiner took over the investigation, and while the official cause of death hasn't been released, multiple sources close to the investigation have indicated it appears to be an accidental overdose. One witness told first responders that Victoria had been using cocaine that night. This detail was captured on the dispatch audio that later surfaced. The Fairmont released a statement saying they were deeply saddened and cooperating fully with the San Francisco Police Department. Anyone with information about that night is being asked to call the tip line at 415-575-4444 or text tip 411 with SFPD at the beginning. What remains unclear is whether Victoria was actually a registered guest at the hotel or if she was visiting someone. That 14th floor has standard guest rooms with views of the city, but the circumstances of why she was there haven't been made public. Victoria Kafka Jones was born September 3, 1991 in Texas. Her father is Tommy Lee Jones, the actor who made his name in films like The Fugitive and No Country for Old Men, the guy with that intense stare and gravelly voice who's been a Hollywood fixture since the 1970s. Her mother was Kimberly Clowley, Tommy's second wife. They married in 1981 on Tommy's ranch in San Saba, Texas. Their first child, Austin Leonard Jones, was born in November 1982. Austin has stayed mostly out of the public eye, working as a composer and musician. Victoria came along 9 years later. The marriage between Tommy and Kimberly ended in 1996, but from all accounts, they maintained a civil relationship for the sake of their children. Tommy remarried in 2001 to Dawn Laurel, a photographer and accomplished polo player. They've been together since, living primarily on a large polo ranch in Florida. This is where Victoria spent much of her childhood and teenage years. Victoria grew up immersed in her father's passions. Tommy Jones is serious about polo. He owns teams, plays in international tournaments in Argentina, and built a regulation polo field on his Florida property. Victoria started playing when she was 6 years old. In a 2006 interview with The New Yorker, Tommy talked about how fearless she was on horseback, charging after the ball with complete confidence. Dawn Laurel Jones is considered one of the top women polo players in the country, so Victoria was learning from the best. The sport was clearly a family bond. She also became fluent in Spanish from an early age. Tommy hired a nanny named Leticia and instructed her to speak only Spanish to Victoria. It worked. Victoria grew up bilingual, speaking what her father described as impeccable Spanish. This skill would serve her well later in life and in some of her acting roles. Acting seemed natural for Victoria, given her father's career. Her first role came in 2002 when she was just 10 years old. She appeared in Men in Black 2, the sequel where Tommy reprised his role as Agent K opposite Will Smith. The film involved aliens, memory-erasing devices, and all the sci-fi spectacle audiences expected from the franchise. Victoria's part was small, a brief appearance, but it was a fun family connection in a movie that grossed over $440 million worldwide. The following year, she landed a guest spot on One Tree Hill, the teen drama about basketball, romance, and family dynamics in a small North Carolina town. Victoria appeared in one episode during the first season. It wasn't a recurring role, but it showed she had the ability to work on different types of productions. Her most substantial early work came in 2005 with The Three Burials of Melquiades Estrada. This was Tommy Lee Jones' directorial debut, a gritty western about a Texas rancher who seeks justice for his murdered Mexican friend. Tommy wrote, directed, and starred in the film, which won awards at Cannes. Victoria had a small role, and Tommy shared a story about her work ethic during filming. She had an early call time one morning, around 5 a.m., and when Tommy tried to wake her, she refused to get out of bed. He told her, "Honey, this is work," but she stayed put. So he fired her on the spot. The crew, however, went behind his back, woke Victoria up, and got her to set just in time without telling Tommy. He later laughed about it in interviews, noting that she already had her Screen Actors Guild card and showed real talent. Victoria's last film credit came in 2014 with The Homesman, another Tommy Lee Jones directorial project. This was a harsh, unforgiving western about pioneer women being transported across the plains, starring Hilary Swank and Tommy. Victoria had a supporting role. The film received critical acclaim and several award nominations. After The Homesman, Victoria stepped away from acting entirely. There are no more film or television credits after 2014. She did make occasional public appearances with her father. In 2017, she attended the Tokyo International Film Festival with Tommy, where he served as jury president. Photos from that event show Victoria in an elegant black dress, standing next to her father on the red carpet. She also appeared at the Hollywood premiere of Just Getting Started that same year. But these appearances were rare, and Victoria seemed content to stay out of the spotlight that followed her father everywhere. What Victoria did professionally after leaving acting isn't entirely clear. She may have continued with polo, possibly working behind the scenes in the film industry, or pursued something completely different. What is clear is that she struggled with addiction in her final years. In 2024, Tommy Lee Jones filed for a temporary conservatorship over Victoria in San Francisco court. Court documents indicate he was concerned about her well-being due to ongoing battles with drugs and alcohol that he felt were putting her at serious risk. The judge approved the petition, giving Tommy legal authority over her finances and medical decisions. This type of conservatorship is what families pursue when they believe a loved one can't safely care for themselves, similar to the high-profile conservatorship case involving Britney Spears, though Victoria's situation received far less media attention at the time. The legal troubles began piling up in 2025. On February 11th, Napa County Sheriff's deputies responded to a 911 hang-up call at a residence on the 1000 block of Las Amigas Road in Napa. When deputies arrived, they found evidence of an alleged domestic incident. Reports indicate Victoria unintentionally struck someone in the face with her palm during an altercation. The victim chose not to press charges, but Victoria was cited for misdemeanor domestic battery anyway. On April 26, deputies returned to the same address for a welfare check. They found Victoria showing clear signs of being under the influence of drugs. When questioned, she admitted to using cocaine that day. Deputies noted slurred speech and unsteady balance. She was arrested for being under the influence of a controlled substance and for possession of narcotics. The San Francisco Standard later reported these details from the arrest report. On June 13, another incident occurred, this time at a hotel on the 4000 block of Sonoma Highway in Santa Rosa, which is in neighboring Sonoma County. Victoria got into an argument that turned physical. According to reports, she slapped the same victim from the previous incidents at least once. This led to another arrest for misdemeanor domestic battery. Victoria pleaded not guilty to the Napa County charges. A settlement conference was scheduled for early 2026, right around the time of her death. A mugshot from one of these arrests later circulated online, showing Victoria looking exhausted and worn down. The photo was taken 6 months before she died at the Fairmont. A police source who spoke to the New York Post described Victoria as a problem child who had been dealing with substance abuse issues for years, the kind of situation that spirals when intervention comes too late or doesn't stick. There were also vague reports of elder abuse allegations connected to family disputes, but details on this remain unclear. Nothing beyond the domestic battery charges appears to have resulted in formal court proceedings. Tommy Lee Jones himself has always been intensely private about his personal life. He graduated from Harvard, where he played football and roomed with Al Gore. He broke into acting with Love Story in 1970 and built a career playing tough, no-nonsense characters. He won an Oscar for Best Supporting Actor in 1993 for The Fugitive, where he played U.S. Marshal Samuel Gerard chasing Harrison Ford's Dr. Richard Kimball. He received nominations for JFK, In the Valley of Elah, and Lincoln. He's directed films, written screenplays, and remained active in polo well into his 70s. He's now 79 years old. But losing a child changes everything. After Victoria's death, the family released a brief statement through Tommy's representative. "We appreciate all of the kind words, thoughts, and prayers. Please respect our privacy during this difficult time." The statement was simple and direct, much like Tommy himself. He hasn't given interviews or made public appearances since the news broke. The Fairmont Hotel carries its own weight of history. It opened in 1907, shortly after the devastating San Francisco earthquake and fire that destroyed much of the city. The hotel was one of the first major structures to rise from the ruins. In 1945, the United Nations Charter was drafted there. Tony Bennett performed "I Left My Heart in San Francisco" at the Fairmont for the first time. Presidents, celebrities, and world leaders have walked through its lobby. Now, it's also the place where Tommy Lee Jones' daughter died on New Year's Day 2026. The Mercury News noted this sad addition to the hotel's long history. Victoria's story raises questions about the children of famous people and the unique pressures they face. She had advantages many don't: access to opportunities, financial support, connections in the entertainment industry. She had genuine talent, both in acting and in polo. She was bilingual, well-educated, and grew up in a family that clearly cared about her. But none of that protected her from addiction. The disease doesn't care about your last name or how much money your family has. It doesn't care if you grew up on a ranch in Florida or attended the best schools. The San Francisco Police Department continues to investigate the circumstances of Victoria's death. The medical examiner's office will eventually release an official cause of death, though the preliminary information points to an accidental overdose. Multiple news outlets, NBC, People, TMZ, The Daily Mail, have reported consistent details about that night. The witness statement about cocaine use, captured on dispatch audio, has been referenced in several reports. San Francisco on New Year's Eve is chaotic in the best of times. The city fills with people celebrating, drinking, partying until sunrise. The Fairmont would have been busy that night, with guests coming and going, staff working overtime to manage events and room service. In the middle of all that activity, Victoria Jones was dying in a 14th-floor hallway. Whether she was alone, whether anyone could have helped, whether this was a tragic accident or something more complicated, these are questions that may never have clear answers. What's certain is that a family is grieving. Tommy Lee Jones, who has spent decades playing stoic, unbreakable characters on screen, is dealing with a loss no parent should have to face. Austin Jones has lost his younger sister. Dawn Laurel Jones, Victoria's stepmother, is mourning someone she watched grow up. The private nature of their grief stands in stark contrast to the public nature of the tragedy. Victoria's last social media activity, her final conversations, where she spent her final hours before arriving at the Fairmont, these details haven't been made public. The police are asking anyone with information to come forward, which suggests there are still gaps in the timeline. If she was using cocaine that night, as witnesses reported, where did she obtain it? Who was with her? Was she staying at the hotel, or did she go there to meet someone? The temporary conservatorship Tommy had put in place was meant to protect Victoria, to give him the legal tools to ensure she got treatment and stayed safe. But conservatorship can only do so much. They can control finances, mandate rehab, monitor medical care. They can't make someone want to get better. They can't be present every moment of every day. The fact that Victoria was in San Francisco on New Year's Eve, apparently using drugs despite the conservatorship, shows how difficult it is to manage addiction even with legal intervention. Her acting career, brief as it was, showed promise. She had screen presence in The Homesman, held her own in scenes with professional actors, and clearly understood the craft. If she had continued, who knows what roles she might have taken on. But she chose to step away after 2014, for reasons she never publicly discussed. Maybe the pressure of being Tommy Lee Jones' daughter was too much. Maybe she wanted a life outside the entertainment industry. Maybe the addiction was already taking hold, making it impossible to maintain the discipline required for acting work. The polo community, which Victoria was part of for most of her life, has remained largely silent. Polo is an insular world with tight-knit circles of players and families who compete together for years. Victoria grew up in that world, playing alongside her stepmother and father, attending tournaments across the country and internationally. If she maintained those connections into adulthood, those people are likely grieving privately, away from media attention. Tommy Lee Jones has always been protective of his family's privacy. He rarely discusses his personal life in interviews, keeping the focus on his work. Even in that 2006 New Yorker profile, which was more revealing than most, he only shared select anecdotes about Victoria's childhood, the polo playing, the Spanish lessons, the story about firing her on set. He didn't discuss struggles or challenges. He presented his family as strong, capable, and thriving. Whatever difficulties Victoria faced, he kept them private until the conservatorship filing made some details public record. The fact that Victoria's legal troubles in 2025 didn't receive widespread media attention until after her death is telling. In today's world, where celebrity gossip spreads instantly, her 3 arrests flew under the radar. This might have been by design. Perhaps the family worked to keep the incidents quiet, or perhaps Victoria Jones simply wasn't famous enough for entertainment media to care. Only after her death did outlets dig into court records and police reports, piecing together the timeline of her final year. For people struggling with addiction, Victoria's story might feel painfully familiar. The pattern of arrests, the admission of drug use, the repeated incidents at the same location, the victim who didn't want to press charges, these details paint a picture of someone spiraling, unable to break free from patterns of behavior even when consequences pile up. The mugshot that surfaced, taken 6 months before her death, shows the physical toll. The eyes that looked bright and happy in red carpet photos from 2017 looked hollow and exhausted in that police photo. What Victoria's death does is remind us that addiction is everywhere, affecting people from every background. It's in wealthy families and poor families, in cities and small towns, among people with college degrees and people without them. It doesn't discriminate based on talent or potential or how much your parents love you. Tommy Lee Jones is known for playing characters who face impossible situations with grim determination, lawmen chasing fugitives, soldiers dealing with war trauma, ranchers seeking justice in lawless territories. But this isn't a movie. There's no script that ends with everything resolved, no final scene where the hero rides off into the sunset having fixed the problem. This is a father who lost his daughter, and nothing about his career or accomplishments changes that reality. The investigation will continue. The medical examiner will complete the autopsy and release findings. There may be additional details that emerge about that night, about the weeks and months leading up to it, about Victoria's state of mind. Or the case may close quietly, another tragic overdose in a city that sees them regularly, distinguished from others only by the famous last name involved. Do you think more attention should be paid to the struggles of celebrity children, or does that just make things worse? Leave your thoughts in the comments. If you found this story important, hit that subscribe button for more in-depth coverage of news that matters.